Hello.
Get up, get up and make it happen. It's Friday. I had to do that because Lucinda and I were working backstage. Happy Friday, everyone!
Happy Friday. I am like in full out disco gear because as some people who will see this know, I gave a huge class to writers yesterday, and we literally jumped out with the Gloria Estefan Get On Your Feet and Make It Happen, which you've got to be of a certain age to even catch the reference, but we were like dancing, getting up in the room, and so I just thought I'd keep on with the disco theme.
You are so bringing that energy today, Lucinda. So thank you. And I just had to open by singing that because it's Fun Friday, everyone. So here we happy Friday for everyone that's joining us. I'm Ashley Bernardi, the CEO of Nardi Media. I am joined with one of the business partners, Lucinda Halpern. She's the founder of Lucinda Literary. She's author of the incredible book, Get Signed. Lucinda and I have worked together for years, and we share multiple clients who are best-selling authors, including Susan Pierce Thompson, Ron Friedman, Jane Allen. We could go on and on and on and on and on. And we are here today to talk all about you. If you are an author, an aspiring author, or maybe a multi-author, like it doesn't matter. You want to be in this conversation because we have Lucinda here. So Lucinda, thank you.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, Ash and I go way back. She and I were pregnant with our first children together when we were both launching our businesses. And, you know, she always struck me as a rainmaker, and she really 1,000% is, because for those who know me, I came out of a book publicity background at HarperCollins, and that's how I came to know Ashley. We're both publicists together. But Ashley taught me so much about the trade of how to be an actually amazing publicist, because she actually targets all of her pitches. She reads the book she works on, and she has this boundless energy and genuine integrity for the authors she represents, genuine respect. And that makes her really stand out in the media world. Also, she's just a book lover. She's a former producer, broadcast, booker. So she's got experience from all sides of the aisle. Anyway, I pitch for a living, so I could do that to you all day long. But I think as we're talking to the audience today, people who want to get traditionally published and want to know what a literary agent does, and hear those success stories of first-time authors, I would begin by saying that Ashley single-handedly has brought us at Lucinda Literary a handful of our best-selling, biggest successes, ranging from academics to health lifestyle experts, so many different, even to novelists. And she has put in a good word for them, and very few publicists have those actual connections to New York agents and publishers, where when Ashley sends me a referral, I pay attention. And so I think that as we started to do an audit at my agency about where our new talent actually comes from, 50% of the referrals are actually sent by people like Ashley. So referrals are an agency's bread and butter. We're going to trust our authors to bring us good people. We're going to trust our editor contacts. But you are also an author's secret weapon, which they may not know as they're looking at publicists. So
I love hearing that. But you are also an author's secret weapon by getting them these massive book deals, really knowing that story, what the story to tell, and helping them guide them through that in all stages of the writing process.
Well, thank you. I found my dream career in becoming a literary agent. And I know a question on several minds is like, what does a literary agent do anyway? So we can answer that. But, broadly speaking, I am an editor. I was first a reader and wannabe creative writer, as so many people entering publishing were, right? In our 20s, I read literary fiction. I was living in like a garret studio in Paris. I was penning my memoir and my essay collection, trying to get published by The New Yorker. So that's where we all sort of started. That's a familiar trope. And then I went into corporate publishing and learned that I really liked the pitching side. I had this great boss in publicity who said, you need to find a way to be excited about every author and book that you represent. And I took that very much to heart. So even if there was a book topic or author that I just didn't think I'd ever read, I would find a way to get excited about that book. And usually that begins with the authors themselves. So at Lucinda Literary, we say, like, we represent the people behind the books. We're very much a creative first, artist first. That's our approach. Like, I fall in love with the authors before we even figure out the books. And yeah. Sorry,
What
Ash,
do
go
you
ahead.
look for in those authors?
Yeah.
I know author first. So I like in PR, especially in choosing clients to work with, it's got to be a personality match. I can't just like love your mission. I really have to love you. I got to make sure it's an energetic match.
Yeah.
What is it for you?
Yeah. So again, like dream career, you get to be an editor. I am a deal maker. I would make deals night and day. If that was the only thing I could do, I'd be very happy. But the match is really someone who has that ambition and that desire to move with speed and momentum, that urgency behind their message. Someone who can teach me something about a subject I don't know. Something we say in my book, I wrote this book, Get Signed, is I would like every author to tell me something I don't know about a subject I love or am fascinated by. And when you meet someone like that, within instance if they have the it factor. Within instance of receiving an email if someone has the ingredients to become a published author. So that's the sort of chemistry I'm looking for, like someone that just lights me up and we're going to jive because we work quickly and ambitiously and sort of in an all-in way.
In the type A New Yorker way that we are, Lucinda. I can also hear people who are watching and listening like, okay, so I got to tell Lucinda something new and interesting that she doesn't know about a subject that she loves. What are some subjects that you love?
Yeah, so I love popular psychology. Like I nerd out with academics because I feel like they bring the research and I bring the party. It's like we're going to just have fun. We're going to make you feel much more comfortable about this whole process because just inherently they're, really methodical and detail oriented. And I love what academics bring to the table. So popular psychology, popular science of all kinds. I do love fiction, but that's not going to be really the topic of our conversation today because the rules for nonfiction authors, which is who Ashley primarily works with, are different. And when you went back to, what are agencies like mine looking for, it's really experts in their field, right? It's people who have years of experience in their business and some degree of public recognition. So I always tell authors that like the sweet spot to get a book deal, and it was actually the case for me as well, is a decade into your business. It signifies to an agent or publisher that you've had enough credible experience, but your star is still rising. Like there's an opportunity for someone to get on the elevator up and for there to be more books and more growth in your career. So we're looking for experts, years in business, credentials, which could be traditional credentials like PhD, MD, CEO, MBA, JD, whatever it is, or contemporary credentials, which means to me, social media following, email list, speaking engagements. There's so many different ways in which we are sort of sizing up if an author has a big enough audience that they've already built that would be able to generate thousands and thousands of book sales for people they don't even know. So that's what we have to be sizing up on the business side of publishing. And what else? Networks to support them. So this is kind of an aha moment that can be really motivating for authors who don't have that huge social media platform, that it may just be people in your network that you are not telling agents and publishers about who are the strongest arrow you have in your quiver to prove that you have that traditional publishing potential. If 5 people are going to put in a good word for you, that's really huge. If they have megaphones on social media to support you, that can be even more meaningful than your social media platform. So that's sort of a little secret I like to tell people. And one last answer to that question in terms of what publishers and agencies like mine look for, a unique and counterintuitive claim. So consider we've heard it all before, like in the music business, and no song is a new song. Editor friends of mine will say no book is a new book. So how are you going to present? So much of this is a market, it's like a presentation game, that you have something really inspiring and exciting and revelatory to show the world as a nonfiction author.
That's so good. Counterintuitive. We even think like that in our pitching too, when we pitch the media. What's new and different? Journalists have seen and heard it all. So it's very, very much the same. And it actually makes me think of just the publicity question in general. At what stage of the author's journey should they be thinking about getting out there and for their thought leadership? Is it before the book? Is it when the book comes out? What would you recommend as a literary agent?
Such a great question. So more and more, we are sending aspiring authors to firms like Ashley's because we want them to get that public recognition that we know is going to be important in making the argument to publishers that this person has the audience, right? But it's a bit chicken and egg. And Ashley knows this because we work on so many campaigns together, that those media outlets are actually looking for the same things that publishers are looking for: a hook, something new and surprising about the statement you're making, credentials, whether they are traditional or contemporary by way of your online following. So don't neglect, for those of you certainly who are, I would say, like midlife and older, which by the way would include me, social media phobic, sort of getting out there for the first time, many will say like, well, I'm really happy doing media. And I'm happy being on a stage. That whole social media thing, not so much. You've got to be doing all of it. It's not just media that's going to land you a book deal, but media can be a great generator of exposure that onboards so many different social media followers and gives you that attention. And one more on that note is, if you are featured in an article or pen an article that goes viral, sometimes that's all you need to get a publisher's attention. Better yet, the agent or the publisher's coming to you.
Yeah, that's right. And like that article could be the jumping off point for your book topic too.
Oh,
which I've seen happen.
Exactly. How many times actually do we as agents sort of like, poke and prod, well, what's the book idea? And then they're like, oh, your website URL is probably the best title for your book, or that article you wrote, there was so much response, maybe that should be the topic of the book. So there's a lot of like, I always say it should be the simplest and most overlooked. Like, so many writers sweat it. What should I write? They should write, what is the most overlooked and simple thing you can do? That's what you should write.
That's true, and sometimes as experts, we get so in our heads, and we're experts on complicated subjects that the general public who we want to reach doesn't know much about. So really it is about getting simple. Something else that I teach here at Nardi about, like in media training, think the simple thing, and that could be it. That really could be the what sticks. Okay, I had another question for you, and we get asked this a lot too. And then I'm like, well, here, you should talk to Lucinda and her team, and go to getsign.com. How do you decide what publishing path is right for you? So publishing, there's traditional publishing, there's hybrid publishing. I personally did hybrid publishing. I know you did traditional publishing. I'm of the belief that there's no right or wrong way to do it, but how do you decide?
Yeah. So there's no right or wrong way, and everything is sort of full of headaches. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for authors. It's an art and a science, and yet it's not a science ever. It's like there are all sorts of circumstances that will come up no matter which path you choose. And just as I was telling an author today, I was like, you should expect that your publisher, and she's traditionally published with Big Five, does nothing and then be pleasantly surprised. What that does for you is it like liberates you from following up with your publisher on everything that isn't happening and just thinking of yourself as your biggest asset, which just no matter what path you choose is going to be the case. So I'm an agent who actually is totally non-denominational. I think that self-publishing is fantastic. The biggest deals we've been doing at Lucinda Literary in the last half year have been by authors who have previously self-published, which is really interesting. Is a long and winding road. You could start off self-published and really use that as a testing ground for who comes to this idea, because it's almost like a nice beta test of what's the response? Could I have better edited it, packaged it? And then it gets traction, and you can go to a traditional publisher having generated that traction. So self-publishing is great if you are an entrepreneur and want creative control, financial control, and are sort of excited about rising to that challenge. And authors who have no platform or mega platforms can benefit from self-publishing. Hybrid is more and more the route that people like you, Ash, have taken, which is, often it's to serve a business, often it's a legacy, just a book that you really feel passionately about writing and want to get out there. And you want that team collaboration. So in a hybrid play, you're actually paying the publisher to produce the book for you. And often they'll provide publishing services like marketing, distribution, editing as well. The difference is, like, they're not paying you, you're paying them. But what really, I would say the happiest writers in my coaching community are hybrid published, interestingly enough, because they're getting that team expertise, but they're having things the way they like it on the timeline they want it.
That's right.
Traditional publishing, however, you are a business risk for a publisher. They are putting financial investment on the line, hoping that they are taking a winning bet. And the number of times that those bets pay off, de minimis. And then like the one time that they paid a little money and the book became a massive bestseller makes up for all of those acquisitions they can make just on their whims and their heart, right? So what that means is there is pressure on you to sell, especially if you want more books. They're going to be looking at how well the last book did. Of course, as a proponent of traditional publishing, because that's who I primarily work with, and I've traditionally published myself, it's wonderful in terms of the pedigree of editor and production and distribution you get. You will be globally distributed, and that is single-handedly what the greatest asset that a publisher can lend an author today.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of choices out there, and like just to reiterate, there's no right or wrong one there at all, but a lot of things to consider. So for folks that are there's aspiring authors and they're like, okay, I know I want to write a book. Where do they start? Because a lot of people are like, I have it in me. I've written some of it. I'm all over blah, blah. Where do they get started?
So again, there's no one right path. Like, I really respect an author's creative process, and I think it has to come from you. However, if I were in the shoes of trying to get published in today's market the traditional way, capturing an agent's attention, getting a book deal, I would start with Amazon. It's a great little tool for playing book detective and figuring out what it is that's selling in your category. Mm-hmm. And once you figure out what it is that you purchased, what inspired you to click buy to read it based on the description, you can actually reverse engineer a lot of those components for your own book pitch. And the pitch and the manuscript really work hand in hand. Like, if you're not thinking about that end at the beginning, then it becomes tougher to make the case for your book in the marketplace. So, there's so many ways to think about this, but I think that's maybe where an author or aspiring author begins, is really by doing that sort of investigative research and understanding the market, and then sort of going off into the proverbial ivory tower and like letting inspiration pour out of you, because the reverse can be tricky. You've written this novel, it's poured from out of you, and now you've got to like fit it into the marketplace. Not impossible. That's what we sort of help authors with, but it's a tougher proposition, and I'd rather you begin at the end, if that makes sense.
I think that's brilliant. So, okay, guys, start on Amazon, do your market research before you go and write your beautiful prose. Yeah. I think that's such great advice. All right, so what's one secret weapon that you think every aspiring author should have?
Okay, so there are many, but I gave this some thought before we got on, and something that writers in our community have found really surprising and also achievable is just establishing a basic website.
That's it.
So
it's so simple.
So you can spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, shout out to our website designer, Create Design, based in New Zealand, Rachel Coonleaf. She's absolutely incredible and beautiful. I've paid her to do our sites, but there are plenty of authors, and we have plenty of examples to share with authors, who take our courses, of people who've built websites completely for free. And what they do is they cover what the real estate of a query letter. So a query letter, for those who are brand new, is your pitch to an agent or a publisher. It's like 300 words or less. You cannot capture everything about you in your book in 300 words or less. But what you can do on a website is have someone who is interested go to that website and learn more about you. And you can use photography to give a sense of who you are as a person. And now guess what? You're findable in Google. And now someone looking for you says, like, you can actually curate what we are seeing about you and how seriously we should be treating you as an author. So a website just accomplishes so much, and it can be done free or paid, but it is the first step, or the secret weapon, worth taking. And by the way, don't wait till your book is out to do that.
Oh yeah, do it way before. No. Do it before. Do it
before.
Yeah, the first thing that you should do is have a website.
Yeah. And I mean, just a note on that, something else that people are like, oh, this has been a big aha for older writers in our network. They're contacting us from like Earthlink address, Hotmail address, Yahoo, sometimes even AOL. That immediately suggests like, you're not going to be working in Google Docs with me, are you? Like you're using outdated technology. And how much more professional would it be if you had a URL with your name as an author
Right.
and then your email was tied to that? So it's like immediate psychological perception. We take you more seriously than we do when you're coming with us with your initials and your AOL address. Or even your
1000%.
Gmail. Yeah.
It's like that. It's that level of professionalism for you to pay attention and for the author to be taken seriously. And it is so simple. Like, let me just tell you all, when I launched my business 10 years ago, I created my website on my own. I did it by myself, and I'm the most non-website savvy person. You can do it on your own, and you can do it for free. So before you want to go find those literary agents, get a website and then get a proper email address that's only probably a couple bucks a month. So like mine is simple, Ashley at Nardi Media, right? So those two things make all the difference, even for me as a publicist. If you just have an AOL, I'm like, your credibility, I'm looking for this level of professionalism because I'll be pitching you as a thought leader that I can use and pull from. So I love that you said that. I think it's brilliant. All right. So I also want to know, what are some deal breakers when pitching literary agents?
Yeah. So the biggest one for me, again, I try to keep these things surprising, right? Not what you've heard before. But the biggest one for me is like the overly long synopsis. And fiction writers are more prone to this, but I would say the same applies in a press release. Like, we're thinking about this as a pitch to the media. In Get Signed, I talk about how agents need to think like editors need to think like the media, and all of us are thinking about the reader, like the consumer, right? So it has to be a tight pitch, which means it's not what your book is about, it's why we should care. It's why we should care. And too many authors neglect the reader as part of their letters. If you're writing memoir, you're the star of the story. We can't see this on the movie screen, which, by the way, is how agents are reading memoir. We're reading things for the screen. We want to be able to see this visually, like, what's the scene by scene? What's the plot that keeps us going? Who are the characters we're going to meet beyond you? And so what I see so many writers neglect is this, like, comes from the service to the reader, the benefit to the reader, not to themselves. It's like a job application. You know, how many entry level folks do we get writing us saying, I've always loved literature. I could be buried in a pile of books, and that's why I want to apply to a literary agency. And I'm like, who cares? What's the win-win here? You know, everyone loves to read in this business. That makes me like everyone else. So I think that that's very important, and it is a deal breaker when I see a writer being too sort of self-involved and not focused on what this actually does for a reader. So that's just one deal breaker, but they're plenty.
I think that's, I just want to reflect that also from a PR standpoint. When I was a journalist, that was the exact same thing that we would ask ourselves when covering a story. Why does my audience care? Why does my audience care? And we use that foundation when we're writing pitches. We can't just write a pitch about how great someone is or how awesome your company is. It needs to be something where, what am I going to learn from you? What are my takeaways? What are the action steps? What will inspire, motivate, and ignite my audience? Why do we care? Why does my audience care? So I love that it's so similar. Journalism and reaching the masses through journalism is the exact same way you need to be thinking about it when reaching to literary agents. So that's great.
Yeah.
So you also now at Lucinda Literary offer a suite of coaching services. So can you tell us a little bit about those and how they work?
Yeah. Are you the best interviewer, by the way? This is absolutely your like, this is what you did for a living, and it is so evident.
I love doing it. Let's just do it every day, Lucinda. Next time I'll play some music for us.
Let's do it. So I was just saying this to someone on my team today. I was like, I never want to do the same thing twice, which applies in every way, right? I don't want to sell books the same way twice. I don't want to edit things. Like, I always want to be iterating and innovating. And that's always been just so important to me as a founder of a company, that we just don't do things the same way. And I think in publishing, it could not be more needed and more timely. This is the most antiquated industry. I love you books, but like it's we've got to be keeping up with where readership is taking us, what the future looks like. Like really good publishers and agents have to be futurists. So I think that what I noticed, especially in 2020 when the pandemic hit, was that there was this need and hunger and appetite for online learning, right? Because that's what we could do from our homes. And there have always been writers hungry for information and to write books, and never have industry insiders and New York literary agents actually divulged the information that they so desperately needed. I'm just of the opinion publishing does not need to be mysterious. It isn't that mysterious. There are nuances to it. There's a lot to unpack, and everything applies to your personal project, which is why the coaching is so critical, because it's not like this is, the formula, this is your primer. But beyond that, you've got to step in the room with an expert or an agent and have them guide you at a very vital point in the process. So too often we see queries where manuscript is done, pitch letter is out, you took your shot with us and we rejected it. I would much prefer that you get the opinion of an agent, whether you're going to query and work with us or another agency or publisher. I'd rather you get the expert feedback at the very earliest stages, so you can get like the game-changing advice that's actually going to make your book commercial or not, viable or not. So that's sort of the reason. That's a long-winded reason for the coaching services. But very specifically, what we are launching right now is a workshop called Book Accelerators. So this is like a 6-week boot camp where writers get to meet with me and other, publishing pros on my team, editors, ghostwriters, and other agents at Lucinda Literary, to be taught by us about what the market is looking for. Everything from developing your big idea to building your platform to finding the right readership. And we're bringing in experts like you. We are giving out assignments to keep them on track, and like a private channel so they can all workshop and communicate 24/7. And there's like a lot of bonus resources to watch. So this is a really rich sort of living, breathing experience from out of the book gets signed, where you're going to be in a small room being coached by an agent about how you should be really redeveloping your idea. So that's what we're most excited about right now in terms of the coaching services.
And I just want to say, for anyone that may not know Lucinda and her team yet, they are disrupting the way that publishing happens. There is no one else. Like, find another literary agent out there who is doing this, who is giving you access to early on in the process to ensure your success, so that you're not delivering a product that's going to instantly get rejected. No one else is doing that right now. So I just want to say the Book Accelerator Bootcamp, it's if you are an aspiring author, this is your first step. Start here, right, Lucinda? Is that what you would say?
I mean, you just say it better than anyone, but yes, that is what I would say, because what's nice about it is that actually is open to fiction and nonfiction writers, any stage of the process, no prep required, like come in your pajamas and grab a cup of coffee. It's like, this is not the formal pitching of an agent. By the way, I am not a believer in writers' conferences. I'm sorry for those who run writers' conferences.
I was going to ask that. Like, that's it.
Yeah. I think that choosing between the two as a writer, being in Zoom from the comfort of my home and meeting with an agent in a room of 10 every week in a class versus 5 minutes of a speed pitch with an agent where I have to fly to Minnesota to do it, it's a no-brainer. Like, I just don't feel like those conferences, I sort of feel like they're false selling a little bit, what actual feedback or actual interest you're going to get. Whereas we're all about the tough love. Like, we want to kick the tires of what you're doing, so the mistakes you're making, so that you do get response when you go out pitching.
I think this is so brilliant. And I it's like that New York energy that we all, that kick in the butt that we all need, the raw honesty, yet also brilliance that authors need. So anyone out there, if you are aspiring to write a book, thinking about writing a book, you've written your book, Lucinda, where can folks go to learn more about the Accelerator Bootcamp?
Yeah, I'm in the private chat right now, but it's lucindaliterary.com/accelerate.
Okay, I'll make sure to post this afterwards. All right, you guys, one more time for folks, but I'll post it after.
Yeah, so it's our Book Accelerator Bootcamp. It's 6 weeks taught by agents with a lot of different takeaways and bonuses. And it's lucindaliterary.com/accelerate.
Accelerate. Okay, everyone.
Accelerate, get on your feet, writers.
Yeah, now we got to start dancing, right? What was our song?
Yeah. No, get on your feet. I'm telling you, because
get on your feet.
Yeah. Because it's like, I so badly don't want writers to spend another year just at their desk with writer's block, feeling alone, shooting in the dark. Like, there's just something so magical that comes from connecting with other writers and an expert in the room that's just, I don't know. It's obviously something I find really rewarding. So,
I mean, the offer is so valuable. And I mean, just to get in a room with you on Zoom, to get your feedback on a book, it's just, there's nothing better. And I'm so excited to join the program too, as a publicist, to talk about book publicity and PR and how to pitch yourself to the media. So I can't wait for that. Lucinda, I just want to thank you so much for gifting us your brilliance this afternoon. You are incredible. And I learn so much every single time you're on. And I know that folks out there who are watching now and who will watch later are going to learn so much more too. So just thank you so much for your afternoon with us.
Thank you. You are the queen of your craft, and obviously the queen of interviews. And I would just encourage anyone watching this to really consider working with Nardi Media at any stage of the process, because we all sort of need a good publicist in our corner, not only to defend against this like crazy media news, maelstrom that is the world today, but really to have our backs to advocate and to be smart strategists about how we are going to grow the right audience to get a book deal or to promote a book. So she's your person, and we all work together as a family. So I hope to see many of you at Accelerators.
Wonderful. Lucinda, thank you so much. Okay, everyone, get on your feet, get up and make
it happen.
And go have a happy Friday. Lucinda,
happy Friday.
Everyone have a great weekend, and we will see you soon in the Accelerator program.
Bye.